All right, so thank you everyone for joining us this evening. This is the CAC team's presentation of FAFSA informational webinar. This evening we have with us Leo Flood and Angelo Brown from the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. They are our ISAC representatives who really are here designed to help families kind of work their way around the FAFSA. So again, this meeting is being recorded, so we will post that information to the CAC webpage at a later date as soon as it goes through all of the little permissions to be posted online. And then we'll make sure that I will send out a email just alerting you that it has been posted. So in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Leo and Angelo, and I will also be monitoring the chat if you have any questions. We'll try to keep this to roughly about an hour, so about 7 o'clock, but we do want to make sure that we're leaving time for families to have their questions answered. All right, so Leo, thank you so much, and Angelo as well. Thank you for being here with us this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having us. So first, can you guys hear me okay? Good.
I think we can hear you. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm going to share my screen. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. Angela will help you out. And then we will have some time at the end to ask questions. And of course, I'm always here for individual questions after the fact. So I'm going to share my screen. And then I don't think it lets me see the Zoom. So if anything goes wrong or it goes blank, definitely just unmute. You can let me know. All right, link this up. All right. Okay. Can you see this? If someone could come off
Yes,
mute.
we can see.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
we can see that.
And then when I switch, can you see that as well?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure because that didn't yes, it did not work the other day. So let me make sure it's on there. Okay. Okay, so I'm Leo Flood. Today I'm going to be talking about the financial aid process. I work in the Waubonsie Community College District. So I work with IMSA, I work with Oswego East, Yorkville, Batavia. So I'm kind of all over. I have a few district partners. They also work with other schools in the Aurora, Oswego area. So I work for the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. We're the college access and financial aid agency in the state of Illinois. So we administer scholarships, grants, and we'll kind of get into some of the more state focused programs as we go through the presentation. But our mission is to provide Illinois students with information and assistance to help education beyond high school accessible and affordable. So all my services are free. I'm here to help you. I recently graduated from the University of Illinois in Champaign. So I graduated in 2023 with a degree in English. So if you ever have questions about U of I, you can definitely come to me. But I help with college and financial aid processes. And again, all my services are free. I'm here to help you out, support you. I know that college and getting ready for college, especially if it's your first student you're sending, can be a lot. So I am here for that. So definitely tonight, ask questions. Again, you can use that chat feature. And then at the end, we'll have time to kind of go over some more questions in depth. But hopefully I'll answer some of your questions about financial aid, when and how to apply, how much college is going to cost.
Hey,
And there's,
Leo, I
yeah,
think the slides aren't switching.
they aren't switching.
Yeah, because I'm seeing it. It's not, people can't see them. And I can see them now, actually.
If I go like this, does it?
It switches to what is financial aid.
Okay, if I switch to like that,
Yep, we can see
you're
them.
seeing it switch.
Yeah, I'm seeing it switch now.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep it like this. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry about that. So what is financial aid? So I like to kind of talk about this broadly, and of course we'll go into more detail. But I think it can be kind of mystifying at first, but it is just money to pay for college. So it helps to cover the gap between what you can afford to pay and the actual cost of college. So it can be given, borrowed, or earned. And financial aid can go towards a bunch of different types of degrees and credentials. So we've got vocational trade school. This is up to 2 years, usually at a community college or a specialized trade center. And some students will do an associate's degree. So this is 2 years as well at a community college. Some students will stop there, or they will transfer to do their bachelor's degree. A bachelor's degree takes 4 years. It can be done at a public, private university, and then master's degree. So students right now don't really have to worry about that, but that is a credential you can receive after your bachelor's, and it usually takes 1 to 3 years. So breaking down cost of attendance. So there are 2 types of expenses associated with the cost of attendance: direct expenses and indirect expenses. So direct expenses include tuition and fees. So this is the cost of your classes, plus, they might have transportation fee or kind of a amalgamation of a bunch of fees. Other direct expenses include like dorm fees. So if your student is living in the dorm their first year, they have to pay for that, and that will go directly to the institution. Indirect expenses, these are not always directly to the institution. So books, course materials, supplies, say if a student gets an apartment off campus their second year, that's also an indirect cost. It's something you have to consider with the cost of attendance, but it could kind of vary depending on where the student's renting and what the price of that is. So all of this is put into a budget. So cost of attendance, and COA is kind of what we abbreviate it in the rest of the presentation. So types of financial aid. We've got gift aid and self-help aid. So gift aid is free money. We put that asterisk there because you might have to meet some terms and conditions or maintain a GPA or something like that for, say, like a scholarship. But just kind of reading the fine details with any type of free money. But this can include grants. So these are usually need-based. Often you apply for them through the FAFSA. And then the scholarships. So this is awarded for different reasons. Maybe it's athletics, maybe it's GPA, maybe it is based on financial need. So these do not have to be paid back. Self-help aid, so borrowed or earned loans, these have to be paid back. So you'll take out a certain amount of money to pay for school and then pay that back incrementally. And then federal work study. So this is when you get a job on campus and earn money to go towards your tuition. So sources of financial aid, where is the money coming from? So we've got the U.S. Department of Education. This is where federal financial aid comes from. The Illinois Student Assistance Commission, where I work, ISAC, we administer state aid. So just for schools in Illinois. Colleges and universities, they might have their own sources of financial aid, and then private sources. So anything that kind of doesn't fall under the other 3 categories, like scholarships, private grants. To look for scholarships, think about what you buy, eat, and wear. Definitely look into local scholarships. There's less competition because, of course, it's only going to apply to certain people. The Fox River Foundation one is kind of a lengthy one, but it is one that students that are living in the Waubonsie Community College District are able to apply for. So definitely look into that. But there's a bunch of different scholarships out there. You want to make sure it's not a scam, of course, because if it seems too good to be true, it might be. So always get a second opinion if you need that. Okay, so moving on to some specific aid. So federal gift aid, remember gift aid is something you don't have to pay back. So the Pell Grant, this is a need-based grant, and it's up to $7,395. And this is a yearly amount. Some students get all of it, a percentage of it, or none of it. It's depending on their eligibility. You apply for this through the FAFSA. And then there's the FSEOG. So this is a supplemental grant. So it's need-based, based on that financial situation, and also based on campus. So you'd have to follow up with the individual schools to see if you qualify for this. So federal self-help aid, that has to be repaid or earned. A federal work study, this is based on the campus. And they might have a list of certain jobs that are, qualified for the work study program. Again, you'll kind of have to follow up with each individual school, and the amounts are determined by the college. So if you're interested in this, you can contact your school and make sure you fill out your FAFSA. So with federal loans, we've got the federal subsidized loan. This is a need-based loan. The student's responsible for repaying. So again, that payment is going to fall on the student. And then the federal government pays the interest while the student's in school. So usually when they pay this, like the student can make, excuse me, I'm messing up. Let me reset. So with these loans, the student usually won't have to pay back until after the grace period, which is often like 6 months after graduation. With federal unsubsidized loans, these are not need-based. Students responsible for repaying as well, but is also responsible for the interest while in school. They might not have to make payments on it until after they're graduated, but that interest is accruing from the time that the loan is dispersed. So then there's also the PLUS loan, so another federal loan. This is credit-based. This is something that a parent would take out for the student, and that responsibility would fall on them. Sorry, those loans can be really a kind of a mouthful. So if you are considering student loans, know where the money comes from. Is it coming from the federal government? Is it coming from a private bank or an educational loan servicer? What is the interest rate? Is it 5%? Is it 9%? Is it going to change over time? Is it going to stay the same? With repayment and grace period, when is the student required to start paying? Again, usually it's that 6 months after graduation, gives them time to get a job to be able to make those payments. And then what repayment options do you have? So there might be an income-driven repayment plan. So it'll go based off how much money you're making, or it's a set amount of time. You pay the same amount monthly, but you get it, all out of the way in maybe like 10 years or something. And then again, we talked about subsidized versus unsubsidized. Those subsidized loans are going to be more desirable because you're getting that interest taken care of for the years that you are in school. So other loan considerations on this slide, I like to point out that, even if you don't know if your student is going to, you or your student is going to qualify for, like need-based aid, applying for the FAFSA is important because you can also qualify for these loans. And even like speaking from personal experience, they do have, much better repayment plans and interest rate. So it's a fixed interest rate. Again, there's the subsidized, unsubsidized, but just kind of pointing that out. Also now it's a graduation requirement to do a FAFSA, but just kind of want to point that out. So for federal loans, there are loan limits. So for the first year for dependent students, which most students are going to be dependent their first year of undergrad, it's $5,500, and it kind of subsequently goes up from there. And then independent students, if they have a special circumstance, $9,500 is their first year loan limit. So again, it goes up from there each year they are in school. So Illinois Gift Aid, we've got the MAP grant. So this is coming from ISAC, where I work at. The MAP grant is a need-based grant. So you'll have to fill out your FAFSA or alternative application to qualify for this grant. It's also based on your financial situation. So again, some students get all of it, a percentage of it, or they don't qualify at all. It's up to $8,064. This is for tuition and fees only. So it'll be directly applied to that. The IVG and the ING, this is for current students who are either veterans or part of the National Guard. They have pretty specific requirements. So we kind of have more information about this on our website, but it does cover tuition and fees. The grant for dependents of police, fire, and correctional officers. This is for students who are dependents of those who were killed or severely disabled in the line of duty. Again, pretty specific requirements, but we have kind of more information, and I can always follow up with you if you have more questions about these. So gift aid for teaching. Usually when I'm in person, I like to, be like, anyone want to be a teacher in here? And then maybe one or two people, raise their hand, but I can't see you guys right now. So if you are interested in teaching, or you are a teacher yourself, put maybe like an emoji in the chat or something. But so Teach grant, this is a federal grant. So this is up to $3,700 roughly. The Illinois SETTW, this is for special education. This is a tuition waiver at public universities. And you'll see for both of these, it says that a teaching requirement must be met or it converts to a loan. They might require the student, once they're graduated, to teach at a certain type of school. Maybe it's a low-income school for a certain amount of years. Otherwise, that will convert to a loan. So just really be sure if you are interested in these about, your path as a teacher, so you don't get caught up in, having to take on that loan. Oh, and the ECAC, this is for current childhood access professionals. So if you are interested in that, it covers cost of attendance after other financial aid. So the big grants for 2025, 2026. So we've got the MAP grant that I just mentioned, up to $8,000 roughly. The federal Pell Grant, up to $7,400, up to almost $15,500. So again, this is another kind of slide where I like to point out the importance of applying, because you never know what you're going to get, and you don't want to miss out on potentially this much money. Okay, so we're going to transition into talking about the actual financial aid application process. So I'll go through these quickly, and then I'll go kind of more in depth. So you're going to complete an application, complete verification if you're selected, receive and review financial aid offers from colleges, make a decision and respond to colleges, complete your pending processes, and then repeat these steps every year. Let me take a sip of water. So step one is completing an application. So the FAFSA did open a few days before October 1st this year, so it is out currently. So this is the free application for federal student aid, and it's used to apply for federal and Illinois financial aid, so that state and federal part. This is usually the first step for most students, and FAFSA.gov is where you can go to start that application. If you do not qualify for FAFSA, so you're going to do one application or the other, it's not, kind of both. But if you do not qualify for FAFSA, but you are a qualifying undocumented student, you will fill out the alternative application. So this is to apply for that MAP grant I was talking about. So again, it can only be used in state, but it is an option for students who might be in that circumstance. And to find that application, you can go to isac.org/alternative app. And I have like a list of the websites at the end, so I can always, send a PDF of this presentation if you want to have kind of those links. And then if the student is applying to maybe some more selective schools, they might have to fill out a CSS profile. It's just kind of like a FAFSA, but it's way more in depth. And you can also, you might have to fill out some other institutional forms. Maybe a college is like, hey, you might qualify for this type of financial aid or this scholarship. Definitely make sure you're following through on those. And you can see at the bottom, it says in Illinois, it's a graduation requirement to complete a FAFSA alternative application or an opt-out form for students who aren't going to school. But we really encourage filling them out just to kind of see what the student might qualify for. So gathering the info you need for FAFSA and alternative app, you're going to need federal tax returns, W-2s, records of income, untaxed income. A lot of this will be kind of on the parent side, but students also might have a tax return if they filed taxes in 2024. And then a list of colleges students would like to attend. So even if this is a school that the student's not applied to yet, or they are still kind of considering, I would say put it on the application just to kind of like save their spot. If they change their mind, there's kind of no harm in doing that. For FAFSA only, you're going to need the student's social security number. If parents don't have one, that's okay. They can still apply and contribute to the student's form. An A number if the student indicates that they are an eligible non-citizen. This is only if they indicate that. And then a studentaid.gov account. Neither application is asking about parents' immigration status. And it's just about getting the student what they need for school. So studentaid.gov account, the student and the parent will need their separate accounts. Parents without a social can also create one. Now that they usually instantly verify, so it's pretty quick. They verify with the Social Security Administration just to make sure your information is all correct. And again, studentaid.gov is where you can go to start that FSA ID. So for parent information, even though most students are either 18 or turning 18 soon, they are still considered dependents for the purposes of financial aid until they're the age of 24. Even if the student doesn't live with them or the parents don't claim them on their taxes, they will need to provide parent information. So parents are considered biological, adoptive, and step parents if those step parents are married to a biological or adoptive parent. Unfortunately, parents are not considered legal guardians, foster parents, grandparents, siblings, other people, even if they claim the student on their taxes. If you're worried about kind of maybe not having access to parent information, or you have a special circumstance, we can always work together to kind of figure out how you'll fill out the form. So going on with parent information, which parent is going on the form? So if the student's parents are married to each other, both parents are going on the form. If the parents file their taxes jointly in 2024, because they used the 2024 tax year for this cycle's form, then only one of the parents will need to make a studentaid.gov account. If you filed separately, then both of you will need to make your own accounts. If the student's parents are unmarried but live together, both of them are going on there. Again, they'll need separate accounts. And then in the case of separation or divorce, if one parent provides the most financial support for the student in the past 12 months, that parent is going on the FAFSA. Think about basic necessities, food, shelter, clothing, insurance. If you kind of are looking towards like, how do I split that up? If it's really 50-50 down the line, then the parent with the greater income and assets, and if they are remarried, their spouses will go on the form. So I feel like I get maybe the most questions about this because everyone has a different situation. So again, you can always follow up with me if you need some more personalized advice. So parents can also apply. So there's no age limit on applying for financial aid. Again, we can help you. My services are free. There's lots of different flexible options in case you do want to go back to school or go to school for the first time. Okay, so signing your application, before we get to kind of like this signing part, I'll clarify that. So student and parents have their own account, right? Students going to go into the website. They're going to start on their 2026-2027 form. They do it by the year that the student is going to be in school. So they will need to do that form. Once they get to the end of their form, they will invite the parent with an invite code. So it prompts them to put in the parent's email. The parent will receive an email with a code, and to start their part of the form, they'll log into their own separate account, and then they will put in that invite code. There's like a tab under the FAFSA form bar, and it says accept a contributor invite with an invite code or something like that. So that is how you will kind of start. I feel like I've gotten a lot of questions about that, so I just kind of want to clarify that. Once you guys get through your application, you will check the box at the end. It's not like an actual physical signature, but it's just indicating that everything that you're saying is as accurate as possible. And then you will sign and submit. With the alternative application, you'll get a PIN number, both the student and the parent, from ISAC. And those are separate PINs, and then you will use that to sign the form. So once the FAFSA is turned in, it will go through the FAFSA processing system. This is just to check some of the data with other federal agencies to see if everything is accurate. And then the FAFSA submission summary, this will show up on the student's page, and it'll kind of show a summary of their application. There's the ISER. So this is the student record that is sent to the actual schools. So the schools will receive that information and then start making offers based on that and their eligibility. So some data matching components, they're going to go through the Social Security Administration, student citizenship status, just the student, not the parent, name, date of birth, Social Security number, and then also the parent or contributor's identity, name, date of birth, Social Security number. DHS, this is only if a student indicates they are an eligible non-citizen. And again, I emphasize student because I know there can be some worries about that, especially in this time, but it's only if a student provides an A number on the FAFSA. They'll also check the NSLDS, looking for financial aid history, loans, overpayments, just to kind of see what that eligibility looks like. And then the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, they will check it. That's only if the student indicates that they are a veteran on the FAFSA. So student aid index, this is a number that contributes what you can put towards your education in one academic year. So it can be a negative number. It can be down to negative 1,500. This will be on your confirmation page after you file your FAFSA. If you do the alternative application, you will have to follow up with the individual college's financial aid office to see what your SAI is. And this is used to determine eligibility for federal and state financial aid. So again, it can be down to negative 1,500, it can be 0, it can be up in the 10,000s. Again, it's just going to depend on your application. And a lot of colleges will use it for institutional aid eligibility. I know with that Fox River Foundation scholarship, they also ask for the SAI now. So if you're wondering what that is, and the students doing that application, definitely this is where you're going to find it. Complete verification if the student's selected. So this is just to confirm that your application data is correct. It's a common process. So, you didn't do anything wrong. They're just kind of following up with you. You might have to submit extra documentation. Sometimes it's, taxes. Maybe it's like residency verification. It can be for a number of reasons. But if you are selected, again, don't freak out. It's totally normal. Provide only the information they're asking for. Submit all your documents on time. Deadlines are really big in colleges, not only with financial aid, but admissions and all of that. So keep copies of everything. Try to stay up to date with what they're kind of asking you for. So then you'll receive and review offers. So this is the equation used to kind of see your financial needs. So colleges will try to, consider all available aid and meet your financial need, but it's not always guaranteed. It can depend on, the school. So the cost of college, again, we talked about that COA in the very beginning, minus your financial contribution, that SAI, minus other financial aid. And this is going to come out to what is remaining and what is your financial need. So comparing your options, apologies for these missing zeros. I realized that as I was loading it. But this slide, I like to point out that, sometimes the sticker price on a school is going to be much higher than what it actually costs. So just like not to discount a school in case it seems like the most expensive option, that might end up being true. But again, just kind of considering what the financial aid is there. So if you'll see at the bottom, there's that school that costs $42,000. Kind of seems like the most expensive option, but after the SAI and say maybe it's like a $39,000 merit scholarship, that student ends up paying, nothing left over. I always bring up the example of my sister. She went to Loyola University in Chicago, and Loyola tuition's like $65,000 or something. And she did get a presidential scholarship, and I think it was around $35,000 a year. And of course, there's still that extra money to cover, but it ended up being the cheaper option in comparison to other schools she was applying to. So just like to point that out. And again, I can always go over a financial aid offer with a student and a parent because it can be kind of tricky to understand what it actually breaks down to. So on a financial aid offer, they will have tuition and fees, grants and scholarships, loans if they're offering those, what the out-of-pocket costs might be, and then other aid options. So they might offer a Parent Plus loan. That's something that you would have to fill out that application for. And then students, if you're filling out the FAFSA now and you're getting it done, it is kind of a waiting game in February through May. That's kind of the range of when these offers tend to come out. Very early is kind of February. Sometimes I see like the end of January. But again, it might take a second. For two-year colleges, so like Waubonsie, COD, this is going to be kind of late spring or summer. They have kind of an open enrollment. So just a different timeline. And this I like to stress, like with the students looking for their financial aid offers and information about this, checking their email, checking their mail, and the student portal. Sometimes institutions will not send an email to kind of alert the student that they have a financial aid offer. Often they do both, but sometimes they won't send an email, but they will put it in the student portal, and there might be other tasks that they have to complete. Definitely keep up with, all three of those. I know there's a lot to keep track of in this senior year, but it's definitely important because you don't want to miss out on any aid that they're offering you. So looking over your offers, you want to make sure that the deadlines are going to match up. Do you have to accept one by, kind of an earlier date? Are you doing it all at the same time? The types of aid included, so grants, scholarships, loans, offers that have more grants and scholarships, money you don't have to pay back, are going to be more desirable. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to student loan types. Are they subsidized, unsubsidized? What are the interest rates? And then asking other questions. So, with, say, they get a scholarship and it's a merit scholarship, is the student going to have to maintain a certain GPA while they're in school? Is that realistic for them? Is it a renewable scholarship? So are they only getting it maybe freshman year, but not getting it sophomore, junior, senior year? Asking these questions just because, if something changes in the next year, that could totally upend that original financial plan. Also seeing what the out-of-pocket costs will be, maybe what the student will have to take out in loans after all aid. So here's the exciting part, deciding and responding. So accept the offer from the colleges you'd like to attend, or college you'd like to attend. This lets them know, you're planning to attend, you're planning to take that money, and serves as confirmation that you are receiving that aid. Also decline offers from colleges you're not going to attend. This lets them know, of course, you're not going there, but also frees up a space for another student. Maybe that's their dream school. They're really excited. And they finally get that offer because, someone declined it. So just kind of a courtesy, but making sure you're doing both. Complete pending processes, check your student email and your portal. Make sure there's no training videos or anything like that that you have to do before, enrolling or registering. Accept your financial aid offer, pay all your deposits. You can also look for waivers in case you qualify for those. And you have to repeat the process every year. So it's not a one-time process. It's, circumstances can change from year to year, but also, some students will go for only 1 year and then they're done, or maybe they go for a few years and then they're done. But circumstances, again, can change from year to year. Loss of income, new family member, marriage, divorce. This can affect eligibility. And this will usually come out in October. It's now mandated by law to come out in October. So that's when you can kind of expect to start doing that application every single year. I would also suggest doing the FAFSA when the student is a senior in college, even if, the student's not going back to school, just in case there's that one last credit that maybe they have to do kind of unexpectedly. I would just, do that just in case. And that's always up to you. So tips and reminders before we wrap up. So apply as soon as possible. October 1st, again, came out a few days before that this year. So it is out now. The FAFSA and alternative app are free to complete. So please don't pay anyone to help you fill out these applications. I can always, hop on a call. We can find a time to meet virtually, or if I have a visit to the school at some point, you might receive communication about that. But again, you can always email me, call me. I'll have my information that I can put in the chat after I'm done presenting. Keep track of deadlines. Again, they're really important and usually pretty strict with the college process. You don't want to delay any financial aid. Apply for scholarships. This is one thing I always, stress with my students because I, when I was an undergrad, I did not apply for any scholarships, which was a mistake. There's so much money out there. Definitely look into applying for some scholarships, even if it's, once a week, you work on a little bit of it. It could be beneficial. Reapply every year you're in college. The trusted websites, again, I'll probably send kind of like a PDF of this presentation so you have this information. I know it's a lot, but you can kind of reference it and then also have this list of websites. So these are our trusted websites. Just a few more resources. So we've got the ISAC student portal. This is where our grant and scholarship programs are up on the website. We also have a scholarship search tool. We have a bunch of planning resources for college. So if you are interested, you can go to studentportal.isac.org. We also have the First Generation Scholars Network. So for students whose parents did not attend college or they attended college outside of the US, that's kind of what our criteria is. I know it can change from kind of institution to institution. Feel free to check out the First Generation Scholars Network. They do send like a sweatshirt the summer before the student goes to college. So I think that's a cute little perk, but it also connects first-gen students to mentors on their campus and different supports they might have for first-gen students, just to kind of have that extra blanket of support. And one last resource, so the ISAC College Q&A. This is for, if you have a simple question, you can send this about, college planning, financial aid. What I like about it is it's not like a chat bot, it's somebody.
Sabi ko din,
I think someone might have unmuted. With the Q&A, again, there's someone replying to it on the other end at ISAC. So I like that about it, that you're talking to an actual person. But again, you can always contact me, but we do have English and Spanish services on there. And also on our ISAC website, we have bookings. So you can also book with somebody in Spanish in case that is something that you are in need of. Okay, so this is my contact information. And if you want to take a quick scan of it, otherwise, again, I will pass this on so that you have it and you can reach out. So I'm going to come back to the room. Here we go. Okay, sorry for some of my hiccups. I'm like, when the slides weren't moving, I was like, oh, kind of threw me off my game. But I hope that was great. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. And again, it's a lot of information. It might not stick right away, and that's okay. That's why I'm here. I'm always here as a resource. And you don't have to, go it alone. There's a lot to think about with college. So I just really, really appreciate you guys being here and look forward to talking with you.
Thank you so much. This is very helpful.
Thank you. So now I'm gonna, what is it called? Open it up to questions. So if you do wanna, I don't know if there's a hand raised function, but you can also come off mute, or again, use that chat function. And I will put real quick my email and my phone number here. This is my work email and my work phone number. And then again, I will pass this information on so that in case you don't get it now, we can always connect later. So any questions generally that anyone wants to ask or come off mute?
We did have one question, Leo, in the chat regarding if a student is currently living with grandparents, whose information would you place into whose tax information would you utilize?
I would say, is the student in contact with the parents?
No.
No. Okay. And then is the grandparent a legal guardian at all, like court appointed?
No.
Okay. I will actually follow up with you because we might have kind of a special circumstance, and I'd probably need to ask like some more kind of in-depth questions that we can kind of do so that I can get you like a more personalized response. So I will, if you want to either put down your email or you can just follow up with me after the presentation so I can kind of ask kind of more specific questions, but I don't want to error any. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi, I have a quick question about if we have a complicated tax return because we have small businesses. Um, how, and I'm worried about filling it out wrong. That's my concern right now, because I know some of the questions are, do you have, report this if you have more than 100 employees, but we don't have more than 100. So if there is a discrepancy in some way, because we consent to them pulling the IRS, the tax return from the IRS, if there's a discrepancy between what we report and what's on the tax return because it's an error, how does that get resolved? What are next steps?
Yeah, so I mean, they might just one, like it might bounce back and you might like have to make a correction, but also that's where maybe the school would kind of do like verification where they ask you kind of for supporting documents. They won't like immediately, like if you make a mistake, like you can make those corrections. They're not gonna um like prosecute you right there, right? But yeah, there's some kind of flexibility. And if you have specific question, like, do you have a specific question as well, like about like kind of how to report that business? But sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But again, like usually that would be like part of the verification process, and you would just have to follow up with the school.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, is that something that we could follow up with you, like while if I fill it out and I say, this is where I'm at, is that something we could call you and discuss with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I help like a lot of students, like because obviously like I help them with the application, but also like there can be those extra steps. So definitely let me know. And I have a whole team. So if I have to consult with them and kind of get like a fuller answer, I always do that. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Sorry about my dog barking in the back.
Well, I just want to remind families that we will be, that this is being recorded. We may edit a little bit in terms of whether or not some questions seem to be a little more specific or a little more personal, but we will make sure that we have everything listed as far as contact information for Leo. So again, that you can utilize those opportunities, whether it is through the text function or to speak directly with Leo and schedule a time for that. So if there's any other questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. We have a few more minutes. Otherwise, I will ask Leo if they don't mind just kind of going ahead and resharing the screen that they had with the contact information,
Yeah.
just so families can have that, maybe take a picture of it if they need to, before this information is posted online.
I have a question. I think I saw a few people posted the same question in the chat. I just want to make sure I heard this correctly. So if the parents haven't graduated college in United States, is the student considered first generation student or not?
So for the purposes of like our first generation scholars network, we would consider the student first gen because they might have a different like process for college in the other country. But I know that there are some specific, like maybe a first gen scholarship where they only define it like in the US. Or excuse me, if the student's parents did go in another country, they don't like count them as first generation students. But just for the like, again, it's just kind of varies. But for our first generation scholarship, or excuse me, scholars network, we would consider them first generation.
And is that part of the FAFSA application or that's something different?
That's something different. So it's not necessarily like a scholarship application. Sorry, I like misspoke, but that would be on the ISAC website. So that isac.org. And you can find the first generation. It's like kind of more of a resource to connect students with first generation resources on their campus. So kind of to get in touch with some community. But that would be, yes, like a separate thing from the FAFSA.
Okay.
And so I
thank
will just add to that too. I think as far as the FAFSA is concerned, that information that you place, that information is given to each college. And there may be some colleges that review first generation differently than
Mhm.
than what we're kind of explaining in this generalized term. So sometimes that is something that you may need to take up with each individual college as to whether or
Mhm.
not your student would still qualify as a first generation student in terms of potential scholarship. But again, that information that's on the FAFSA is really just kind of a generalized in those schools that are very few and far in between. But that is something that you could check with each either financial aid office for the colleges that your student is applying to, or even through admissions.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll share my information in just 1 second, but I know there was um a follow-up question to a reply that Angelo put about the CSS profile. And Rohini had said, should we fill both FAFSA and CSS profile? If the university or the institution is requiring it, then yes, you can fill out both. What's different is when it's like the FAFSA and the alternative application. Sometimes people think they have to do both of those, but that's just one or the other. But with the CSS profile, if you are required for the specific schools, definitely you can fill that out.
So CSS is per school or it's just one application for shared by all the schools?
I believe they can list schools on there.
So the
Angelo,
CS, or I don't know if
or if you
I was
know,
just going to say for the CSS profile, you can actually go onto the College Board website to get a listing of colleges that require the CSS profile. So as your students are currently doing their applications, many of them are already coming across that information as to which profile is required by the school. But if you wanted a comprehensive list, you could go again onto collegeboard.org. And they can give you a listing because the CSS profile is kind of, sponsored through College Board. So you're able to actually access not only the application, but also resources for the CSS profile through collegeboard.org.
Oh, okay. And is CSS profile is in Common App or it's outside? I
It's by
feel stuck.
college. So not every school that's on the Common App, nor, not every school that doesn't or every school that's not on the Common App. So it is going to be by college. So again, a more comprehensive list as to which colleges will require it, you can find on that on collegeboard.org.
Okay, I'll check. Thank you.
any other questions? Otherwise, I'll project my screen.
All right. And I think that I didn't see any other questions in the chat. So Leo, if you want to go ahead and share that information one more time for the families.
Yeah, so I'll share here. You can scan and it'll like bring up the contact information on your phone. Otherwise, you can just take a picture. And again, definitely reach out to me if you have any questions. I know there was someone who had kind of a more detailed situation, so you can definitely follow up with me. And give me a call, leave a voicemail if you can. Otherwise, I usually call back even if there's no voicemail. But also there's my email. So you can definitely reach out to me via email. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming and for having us here tonight. Again, you guys got this. We're going to push through it together. Congrats to all the seniors. And yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Leo. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. And I want to thank all of the families